All right, here we go. Sarah here. Welcome back to another episode of Your Fucking Welcome. As I shared with you in the last episode, I am fresh back from another trip to Miraval, which has quickly become my happy place. And as I mentioned, I feel like something shifted within me in this last trip. And it was like so instant and so quick. And it's one of those moments where I feel like I'm like forever changed. And the first thing that I want to say about that is that I know when you are building a business, when you are trying to lose weight, when you're trying to find the soulmate, like all of the things, right? When you want that outcome, you want everything to shift instantly. You want everything to feel like it's changed like right away, right? Overnight success, all of it. And I just want to say that I'm saying that everything changed instantly, like not because I was forcing it or not because I didn't do the work. It was like this interesting moment of like months and months and months and months and months of healing and work all kind of came together into a big tornado and like exploded. And I had that moment. And I've been wishing for that moment for a long time, of course, and I'm not wishing for it in the way that it happened because who could ever know? But I just say that because I know that when you're on this journey of, again, building a business or healing in any way, you want that quick result. And more than that, you hear other people talking about the instant, the overnight success, right? And so I want to make it clear to you that when I'm saying that it was an instant shift, something changed within me. It felt like within an instant, but it was literal months and months and months of work that like led to that overnight success, quote unquote, right? Just like how people work and work and work and work and work. And then all of a sudden it feels like they're an overnight success. And so I just want to say that to you because this is a product of, again, a lot of work that I've done. And so I want you to, as much as possible, give yourself grace in the work that you're doing yourself rather than trying to force your way to an instant shift, because not only does that not exist without doing kind of like the work leading up to it, in my experience, in my opinion, but also because forcing that or attempting to force that is actually the quickest way for it to not happen, right? And so in a nutshell, because I feel like obviously I could talk to you about this in like the nitty gritty context for hours and hours and hours, which I don't want to do here for your sake. But over the past year and a half, I guess it's been, I've been working with specifically my coach, Carrie, and I've done a couple other things as well. And a lot of, independent work and reading and all that kind of stuff. But I've really kind of just been on this journey that I didn't understand was going to be this journey, but this journey of just healing a lot of old wounds and a lot of old stories. And again, so we've been doing this work, and I had a call with Carrie while I was at Miraval on, I guess it was Thursday. And in a nutshell, we were talking about, my childhood, as we always do. We were talking about certain family dynamics and certain relationships. And we started talking about me helping a certain person in my life heal themselves. And I got really fucking angry when I thought about that. I got really fucking angry. And I was like, I just feel like I'm here as somebody who has put in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, let alone the hours and the time and the energy and the stress to heal from something that I wish I didn't have to heal from. And now I've got to help them heal? Like, no, absolutely not. Like, I got so angry about it. I got so angry. And anger is an emotion that like I access very easily. Like I get annoyed easily, but I don't get angry often at all. But like I felt like the fire in my chest. I got really angry about it. And we dove a little bit deeper into it. And Carrie said something to me. She goes, at some point, like obviously we've been doing all of this work and we've been digging into, the core like root of issues and all that kind of stuff. And that's so powerful and that's so helpful. But at some point, we have to recognize where we might be playing the victim to the villain in our story. And when she said it, like a light bulb went off, but like I still needed to process it a little bit more. And over the next couple days, I just kept repeating to myself, like, there is no villain. There are no villains. There is no villain. There are no villains. And I can't explain exactly like how or why. And again, I did like Reiki sessions there. I did a singing bowl meditation where like they're putting a bowl on your body and like then like hitting it with the gong and like it's vibrating through your body. So again, all of this compounding right over not only the last year and a half, but also just the things that I was doing at Miraval this last trip. And so I can't explain it, but I just had this moment where I felt really, really, really freed of any villains. And when I say villains, yes, I mean like I've had those villains, like actual humans in my life, right? That I have deemed as like the problem or the core of the issue or the people who have hurt me. But more than that, it was like this moment of I'm freeing myself of all of the villains in all of the world in all of the ways. And that night, I went to dinner by myself, and I got dressed. Normally, when I'm at Miraval, especially, it's so fucking hot that like I don't put on makeup or anything like that because it's like melting off your face. But like I got like dressed, I got ready, right? And I had like a tank top on that was like lower cut, and I had jean shorts on that were like on the shorter side. And I don't, it's not like me necessarily to like to show that much skin. I'll get like super insecure about it, and I'll like run and change. And I felt good. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel perfect. Like, my love handle like might be a little bit more than I want it to be, but like, I just felt like really good in my skin. And so I walked to dinner and I sat down at dinner and I felt myself, right? Like, oh God, like what if somebody is sitting there being like, she shouldn't be wearing that? Or, oh God, is my, stomach hanging over my shorts as I'm sitting like this? And like the talk track that has been there for, 36, I mean, I'm sure I didn't feel it when I was a baby, but like for as long as I can remember, the talk track of me, like criticizing myself, but not so much criticizing myself as much as I was like trying to like preemptively assume what the villains had to say, what the villains of the world were feeling about me. And again, it was just this like solidifying moment in the sense of like I witnessed it so clearly and I released it so easily. And like I just gave myself the permission to free myself of it and also to just like be happy in my skin and choose to feel safe and choose to know that there didn't have to be any villains. Not because necessarily there weren't people looking at me. There probably weren't. Like, who do I think I am? Like everyone's looking at me when I walk in the restaurant. Like, no, nobody cares that much about Sarah Dan as I walk into a restaurant, right? But like, and it's never felt like that from like this like, I don't know, egotistical place, right? It's from this like self-conscious place. And it was just again at this moment where I was also like, if anybody is looking at me, judging me for whatever reason, why aren't they enjoying their dinner? Why aren't they enjoying the conversation that they're having at their table? Why aren't they enjoying the company, right, that they are with? But not in this aggressive, like, go fuck yourself kind of way, which is my normal Jersey, go-to. It was more of just like this peaceful feeling. And I'll say it again, like, there are no villains. There are no villains. And I feel like for many of you, this might not all make sense necessarily. Like it might not resonate with you. It might not apply to you. If there are two people listening that it deeply applies to, that's all that matters to me because I mean, I know personally that I really learn and value and benefit the most from stories, from context. It's really hard for me to understand a lot of spiritual, energetic principles or I mean, a lot of principles in general, unless I have the context for them. And so I feel like a lot of people talk about this stuff in a general sense, and then you can't apply it to real life. And so it's hard to actually like understand what it actually is. And so please know that my goal of sharing those types of stories is to hopefully give you the visual, give you the context that you can actually grasp it and apply it to hopefully whatever it is that you're struggling with. But again, it was just this moment for me where it's oversimplified to say that I felt freed, but like I felt freed. And many times where I feel like I've had a breakthrough, I also go into this like very masculine mode of like, well, how am I going to hold on to this? How am I going to make sure that this feeling doesn't go away? And it was just like, no, I just get to keep remembering this. I just get to be lighter and I just get to be more open and I just get to surrender. And I just get to keep remembering and knowing, no, not even remembering. I get to keep knowing what is true. And that is that there are no villains. And yesterday I shared this in the Facebook group, and I shared this with a client yesterday, but I went to a Pilates class, like on the reformer. There's a Pilates studio in my building, and I've wanted to go for a really long time, but I've never really done the reformer, and I definitely felt really intimidated by the machine and, intimidated by the very skinny people that are here in LA. And I just was like, oh God, like the fear of judgment of someone's going to look at me and see that I'm out of shape, or see that, I'm not doing this right, or I'm doing this move wrong. And it was so funny because normally if I said like, okay, I finally signed up for that class, it would have been a process for me to like psych myself up to do it. And this just felt so like, oh, I want to do this and I'm going to do it. And I signed up and I went. And even as like the instructor was explaining some things as I first got there, being my first class, like she was like explaining this, explaining that. And I feel like the old version of me would have been sitting there being like, okay, like let me get this right. And oh my God, let me make sure I hear her so I don't embarrass myself. And I was just kind of like in this free mode of like, okay, cool. Like listening. And like in this, again, understanding of like, this is my first class. If I mess up, I mess up. I'm going to do my best and the next one's going to be better. And it was just such light energy. And I feel like that's what I've had over the past like couple days. And anytime I feel like it's a teeny tiny bit disappearing, it's a really cool moment just to remember that I can keep accessing it because it is what is the truth for me. And so, I don't know, I'm saying all of that to you because if you are somebody who is living life with villains running your life, essentially, right? You're not, I don't know, if you're not dating, if you're not putting yourself out there in your business, if you're just afraid of judgment, or you're afraid of very real pain that you may have experienced before, I understand that me saying, okay, there are no villains, that might not snap something in you instantly because, again, I've done the work to be able to get to the point where I could kind of free it instantly. And so maybe you can access that quickly. And maybe this is a sign for you to really heal some of the things that have been holding you back from the life and from the business and from the relationships and from the body that you want. And when I was sitting on that reformer yesterday, I was just like, I've known this for a while, and I've said this to myself several times already, but it just became more and more clear that like, I am here. My goal is to be the voice or the guidance, the support for that woman who didn't go to the class, right? For the woman who hasn't healed, the woman who hasn't freed herself from those villains quite yet, but she knows what she's always wanted. She knows what she's always been capable of. She's known who she always wanted to be, but she hasn't freed herself to allow that quite yet. Like, I know that it's so easy, especially in our businesses, to get so wrapped up in like the strategy and the how and the making of the money and this is what the smart thing is to do. And these are all the emails that I have to respond to. And trust me, like I always feel that way, but it's such a like important, and it sounds oversimplified, but it's such an important thing to keep coming back to who you're here for and keep coming back to what the purpose is. Because while on one side, I'm like sitting here planning out my next launch and, again, from a logistic perspective, figuring out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. And those things feel good. Like my brain works in strategy. My brain works in systems. I'm fucking great at those things. While at the same time, I can't get so wrapped up in that I forget the purpose, that I forget that like, this isn't about you at all. This is about that girl who, again, didn't go to the class. This is about that girl who didn't put herself out there in her business. This is for the girl who is wanting to heal the ways in which you know how to help her heal. And when you, again, do that, you feel so small. It's not about you at all, right? You feel so small in the grand scheme of it, of all of these things, because you're here to do something that is so powerful and so profound, and that is not about your individual outcomes at all, right? And accessing that is not always easy, but it's always important, in my opinion, and it's always possible. And so, I don't know, I say all of that. This is the second time I recorded this, because the first time I was like extra all over the place because I was a little extra raw. I was a little bit extra like vulnerable, and not that that was a bad thing, but I felt like I was just a little bit all over the place. But my point is that I want to kind of wrap this up in a nice little bow and say to you that you've always been right. You've always known what you wanted. You've always known what you're capable of. And I want so badly for you to admit it to yourself. I want so badly for you to acknowledge it. I want so badly for you to know that you get to have it. And I want so badly for you to heal whatever you need to heal and forgive whatever villains you need to forgive so that you can give yourself full permission to be the woman that gets it, that has it, that knows she's worthy of it. And truly, like, I can't express this enough. There are no words to articulate it properly, how deeply meaningful that is to me, that you give yourself that gift, and how deeply meaningful this work is to me, and how much I truly, truly, truly from the bottom of my heart want you to know that, like, you freeing yourself, you healing yourself, you finding the happiness and the surrender, right, that you probably want is accessible to you. And I just want you to take a stand for getting there, right? And again, taking the stand, that sounds very masculine and, like, I don't know, harsh. But a lot of times, again, it's just about actually surrendering. It's about being lighter. It's about being softer. And I just feel like that's something just so big for me right now, just the softening of who I am and who I've been and the way that I look at things. And I know as I'm in the midst of this transformation, if you will, I know that, like, it's what I've always wanted, but I didn't allow myself to access. And as I get closer and closer and closer to it, I become happier and more free. And again, that's not about me. None of this is about me. This is about you hopefully seeing that kind of healing and those kind of shifts are accessible and possible for you too, because they are. No matter what you've been through, no matter what has been hard, no matter what is hard now, I want you to know that, like, on the other side of the hard is a whole lot of good, and you deserve to do what you have to do, right? And not, again, do what you have to do in this way of, like, work 24 hours. No, like, do what you have to do to know that you're worthy of it and access it and to get there. Because again, you're worthy and deserving of that. And please know I mean that with every bone in my body. Okay? I'll talk to you next episode.